Welcome to Did You Know? The ESCO HVAC Show. We will see you in about 45 seconds or so. Make sure that you are subscribing to our channels, our LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Turn on notifications, and we are very excited to be here with you. It's almost time, about 30 more seconds. Make sure to grab your notebook and pen so you can jot down notes along the way, because at the end of the show, you could have an opportunity to ask our guests questions so we can dive a little deeper into these topics. And here we go. Welcome to Did You Know? The ESCO HVAC Show. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Did You Know? The ESCO HVAC Show. So as we continue talking about new technologies within transitions of refrigerant and technician education, there's a lot of aspects that we need to cover, including in our own training programs, right? When we talk about programs that have 500 hours or less, we're probably not spending a lot of time on installations of equipment. But on our larger programs, especially our 2-year programs, and a lot of our distributors and even our contractors, we have programs that teach our installation of equipment. Now, I spent a lot of time as a TSA representing manufacturers of equipment, so I would do field investigations to be able to look at issues that we may have potentially had with equipment. And what we find most of all is we find installation and commissioning issues really being our primary concern, really being the root of a lot of our issues. So if we think about standardization and accreditation and certification, what are we talking about? Well, we're really talking about setting an expectation as an industry and then using tools to validate what that looks like. So today we're joined with our good friends over at Air Conditioning Contractors of America. We really appreciate you guys joining us so much. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about how ACCA helps the industry validate that they're installing equipment to perform the way the manufacturers have designed it. All right,
Jason, thanks for having us. That was beautiful, by the way.
That's a lot of fun.
Introduce yourselves.
That's right.
Who you guys are.
Let the world know who we're talking to today.
You first, Wes.
Wes Davis, Director of Technical Services at ACCA.
Well, and I've got to be clear. Wes is the brains of the operation here. I'm Sean Roberts, and I'm the political hack, but really trying to help turn this into a business opportunity and help contractors differentiate themselves as opposed to just which box is better.
Absolutely. Sean and I had a wonderful opportunity to hang out a few weeks ago, and the heart of the conversation was, there are a lot of really good pieces of equipment out there that may or may not perform the way they're supposed to once they've been installed. And so here at HVAC Excellence, we spent a lot of time looking at the programs, trying to help our programs stay current with technologies and what our industry and our consumers expect. But we have contractors and technicians that at the same time are installing that equipment. And how do we validate that? And if someone says that it's a good installation, a quality installation, where is that really coming from? Is that coming from the homeowner looking at the installation going, yeah, they came in, they were neat, and they left a good looking piece of equipment and it runs better than my other one. That must be a quality piece of equipment.
Thermostat straight.
Things are square. Let's dive a little deeper. Let's be professionals about this and understand that if we don't validate something, we can't truly compare it. We have to have a standard. And we have to have a tool for validating it. Jason and I talk about this all the time. As educators, it is our responsibility to validate what we truly are learning and what our students are learning. So what about our installations? How do we validate that they are proper? Well, there are tools for doing that. And so if you're a program that has the installation component of the HVAC industry, you're teaching your young students how to install properly. If you're a distributor and you have a training program, I was a distributor and we had an installation training program for our contractors. It was equipment specific. Or if I'm a contractor and I have my own apprenticeship program, how do you know that what you're teaching is actually high quality and that the equipment is coming out operating the way it should? Well, we have those tools. And so today that's what we're going to dive into. And so Wes, Sean, thank you guys so much for joining us.
I'd like to point out,
Glad
Cliff,
to be
that
here.
these manufacturers, when this equipment is manufactured, it is tested to standards. It is tested for performance.
Yeah.
They have all of the tools
Absolutely.
to do all of this testing. So why aren't we doing it on our end to make sure that it goes from
Complies.
factory to install, doing the same verification process that they're doing?
I agree.
And there are a number of contractors that are doing that. They are commissioning their work. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, I don't know that they're getting the recognition they deserve for separating themselves from the rest of the industry.
Absolutely. Well, if you think about when we're comparing contractors, you'll hear contractors say, well, I got undercut on the cost of this job. Well, why is that? Why does someone have a slightly significant more cost on an installation? Well, if they're investing into their technicians the way they should be, it's not easy. It's a big investment to have the highest quality installations and validation
And taking the time to do
taking
the
the
job.
time.
Right.
Well, and of course, it might not just be a small difference in cost. It may be telling them that, hey, if you really want to be comfortable in this home, if you want to get the full efficiency of, the high efficiency equipment you're installing, you really got to make some modifications to your ducts and realizing that, that could be half again, double what the other guy's charging. But you're going to get the benefit of that for a long time. And if we look at financing tools and other things that can help soften that blow and help them achieve those savings.
Absolutely. So there's a lot that goes into a proper evaluation, I think about going to a doctor. Am I going to go to a doctor and spend $20 an hour? Am I going to go to a doctor and spend $100 an hour? Well, I'm going to go to a doctor that's qualified, for one. And so understanding what qualified looks like and what is actually going to be the return on that is really what it comes down to. So yeah, Sean, let's go ahead and dive into our presentation and let's learn a little bit about what ACCA provides for an entire industry that not a lot of people are aware of. I wasn't even truly aware of it until Sean and I sit down and I went, okay, we got to talk about this because this is a tool that every technician in the field really needs to understand.
Well, at least the latest version of this is brand new, just launched in September. So it's hot off the presses here.
I will say before we get started that quality labor is not cheap and cheap labor is not quality.
There you go. That's a good foundation.
All right. Well, let's jump into it. And I'd like to start sort of at the beginning, if I could.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've read this book or not. If you haven't, I strongly recommend it.
I personally have.
You haven't. It's Simon Sinek is a great author. He's got some other
5-minute
stuff.
TED Talk version that is the Cliff Notes.
Absolutely. If YouTube is your preferred medium, absolutely. There's a lot of great content out there. But it was also a great slides to kind of start with. So why is ACCA doing this?
Sure.
Sean. So part of the reason.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Next slide, please, Sean.
Oh, that's what I thought you wanted me to give you the reason.
Well, like people on the spot around here.
What are my reasons? Go ahead. Let's talk about.
I'm not trying to hog the. The EPA says that about half of the installations in America are wrong somehow. And my good buddy Chandler Von Schroeder, who retired from the EPA several years ago, used this analogy. I loved it. He said, if you ordered a pizza, you open the box and 25% of it is missing, you're going to go ballistic.
Absolutely.
Well, there are customers out there who are spending a lot more than what they would on a pizza. And they're being delivered 75%, maybe 50% of what they paid for. They bought a system that's supposed to deliver this much capacity at this performance, and capacity is compromised, and so is performance.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
And DOE's done more research. I'm sure Jason's read it, that it's worse than this.
Yeah.
They're saying about 90% of the homes have at least one thing that's wrong. And when you start stacking these things up, it's a poop show. Next one, Sean.
Yeah. Well, if I can interrupt just real quick on my why and something, and I think why this is so important. I'm really passionate about coming up with modern tools to solve it. I mean, and honestly, with this administration, there's so many things that are challenging with the current administration, but they're also true believers in trying to reduce emissions. And if we let this missing leg of the stool just hang out there, we're not going to be able to get what we want out of these huge investments in the Inflation Reduction Act. And of course, it's, the efficient, the government not getting what it thinks that it's getting. It's the customer not getting what they think they're getting. And so I really think back to, when I was first considering taking this job and working with ACCA. I mean, I'm kind of the resident greenie on the team.
Sure.
And, when I was debating whether to come to ACCA, part of that calculus for me was looking at the fact that nobody's looking at quality installation, how significant that is. There was a 2014 NIST study that looked at about half of homes, home HVAC systems have at least one significant installation fault that's costing between 30-40% of the nameplate efficiency more if there's multiple. In many cases, there are multiple. As Wes just said, the recent PNNL study saying if you include airflow issues, it's 90 to 100% that happen.
I shouldn't laugh about that. I laugh because it's so true.
And just do a back of napkin calculation. And you can fuzz. The numbers are fuzzy, of course.
Sure.
But that back of napkin calculation that you look at the energy use by home HVAC systems, and I came up with about 80 gigawatt hours of energy wasted just from the installation. We're not talking more efficient boxes. We're not talking, what the fuel choice is or any of these things. It's just the installation. And at the time, that was comparable to the total energy produced by photovoltaics. And you look, $160 billion in subsidies for photovoltaics.
Sure.
I'm not saying that's bad, but here you've got something that's just as critical. And nobody's paying attention. And I'm just so excited we finally got some of the tools to address that at scale.
I agree.
I would also say that a lot of the homeowners don't know that something is wrong with their system. Does the air come out hot? Does my, if I set it at 72, does it get to 72? They don't care how it gets there. They will start noticing differences in their energy bills, the electric bill, gas bill, again, whatever fuel it is. But for the most part, they're not going to notice. Like when you buy a car, it says this car gets 39 miles a gallon. You'll know right away if you're not getting 39 miles a gallon. You're going to know. However, if this air conditioner or this heat pump or this furnace is rated at X, will the customer know, are they getting X?
And part of that, Jason, is the car will tell you, I'm getting this kind of fuel efficiency. Our HVAC systems don't have that built-in feedback. Not all. Some are getting better at that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some that have some feedback.
This is how we show the end user, here's your miles per gallon, if you will. This is what we're actually doing.
And in the past, really all we've had to validate that is, all right, what's our temperature rises, what's our airflow, what's our superheat, what's our subcooling, maybe
happy
we'll
customer,
check some amperage, but we're not validating wattage. We're not diving deep into what the system is capable of doing. And so out of curiosity, those that are joining us, let us know where you're chiming in from. We all want to know where you're at. I'm here in Brownsburg, Indiana, and let us know what type of tools you've used in the past. And would you be interested in using a state-of-the-art diagnostics to validate how good of a job you're actually doing when you're installing a piece of equipment?
Absolutely. All right, next slide, Mr. Robertson. So EPA, we just talked about them. They recognize there's a problem. And so they wanted to take steps toward identifying quality contractors. And they came to ACCA in about 2008, 2009, and said, we want you, ACCA, to be the gatekeeper. You're going to tell us who can do quality work. And we said, no. We didn't have a mechanism to check every installation. We don't have a way to verify or get that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
So we said, hey, love to help you, but that's beyond our capability at this time. So
at the moment,
I think the EPA went and looked for another person that could do that and couldn't find one, so they came back. And we did say what we can do is work with, and the Energy Star Certified Homes program is new construction.
Right.
And there's always a rater, a ResNet or Building Science of America, Building Science Institute or a rater involved in the evaluation of that home's construction. And we said we could work with them. They can evaluate a few things. They can look at the design because they do model a home. So they can say, you know, are things lining up? And they can do some non-invasive testing. And so that was the way we were going to move forward. And ACCA would verify a few key elements. Are they properly licensed? Are they insured? Have they got business registration? Have they got a few minimum requirements? And do they promise to do good work? And we'll double check behind the raters, small sample, but that was our plan moving forward. Our goal was always to get where we are now. Now we do have a way to get that feedback on every installation and evaluate how well it's doing.
QA, right.
So we would love to move toward the promise of doing good work to confirmation of doing good work.
Bingo.
Next slide, Mr. Roberts.
I would point out that, you know, this is a big ask, if you will, on the residential side. Commercial side, we have BACnet. Things are constantly monitored. Right. It's easier to implement something there. But on the residential side, there's not a lot of connectivity. It all comes down to whoever installed that equipment and whoever is doing the testing at that time. And that's a big ask.
It's the population.
Yeah.
How many commercial buildings?
More. Yeah.
Right. So that's it's a lot larger group of folks to work with. So ACCA, EPA, consumers care too. Jason, you were talking earlier about, you know, they're kind of limited on what they can do. So what do they do? Well, they're reaching out to friends. They're looking at somebody online that may have a list of contractors. Sean, go to the next slide. These folks also come to ACCA. And if you look at this, I'm not quite sure, Cliff. So audience, forgive me if I'm not sure if we're mirroring or what, but on these two pages, one of them is for our QA directory and the other's for our contractor locator.
Oh, okay, and sure.
Customers come to us regularly to find out, to ask us who's a member at least of ACCA. And we have a toggle. You can say, I want a quality contractor. And it'll list the quality contractors for the members, or you can go to our other directory, which was built primarily in support of Energy Star. But you could search just for the QA contractors. We get quite a few folks coming to ask us, who should I hire? So ACCA, EPA, the federal government, I think it extends beyond just the EPA. But consumers also care.
Yeah, I care. So I was curious myself when we started looking at this, because you got to remember, so I did a lot of dealer onboarding and continued dealer training for many contractors in my region, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, all the way out through Pennsylvania. So I knew in my area what the contractors look like. And you're right, not all contractors install with the same quality. And so how can we validate as a consumer? Well, I knew for myself, one in particular contractor that just stands out above all of the rest here in just say central Indiana. And so I went to, just out of curiosity, went to find out, and I got a number of contractors, many of which I was familiar with, and the one absolutely stood out for me. So it was very, very good for me to see that validation. LCS is a local heating and cooling contractor that I have personally seen the level of commitment that they put to their technicians and to their clientele. And so as a
That's consumer, Renee and Travis.
That is Renee and Travis, absolutely.
They're now gold members of ACCA as well on the membership side.
So it validates that, you know, we have quality contractors that are following practices and setting expectations and validations and giving us a way to not only compare our contractors, but the installations and the tools for validation. So for me, it's important to have a source for this. You know, we've had this discussion even with the state that, you know, there are apprenticeship programs that try to bring in, you know, young students and workers to go through a program. Well, how do you validate what they're actually learning along the way? How do you validate that they're actually doing quality education so that you end up with quality installations? And so we didn't have tools in the past to do that, but now we have tools readily available to evaluate the quality of the work that the contractor is investing in those installations. So I highly applaud you guys for doing this. It's long overdue in our
Well,
industry.
and it is a multi-headed hydra, if you will. I think that the education and training aspect is huge. I think
Mm,
we've got to continue to learn and grow. The
absolutely.
challenge has always been that after you walk out of a training program, even if you passed with flying colors, how do I know you're applying that knowledge?
Absolutely.
So this is
It's a tool.
a way to do that.
Absolutely. I look at a lot of our programs, especially in our 2-year programs, they are guided by what the advisory board is asking of them. And so a lot of our programs end up with installation technicians, they're prepping installation technicians. But what kind of technician are we prepping them for? How are we validating the quality of the installations they're doing in our programs? Because a lot of times, even our own programs, we design the program, we're looking at the installation, we're doing basic commissioning of them. But what if we had a tool that we could actually validate the quality of the work being done in the program as well? And so that's when tools come into play. So let's talk about tools and ways that we're now integrating the
Before we
success.
get there, I want to go back to what Wes just said. We, on the education side, we take and train a student. We use the tools, and they're doing these quality installations. They're doing things that, like you said, pass with flying colors, and then they graduate from the trade school and end up working for a contractor that does half of what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
That is where that last slide where it shows the different contractors where you're searching. Maybe if I'm that type of student, I go to that website to look for somebody to work for.
That is the whole point that I was looking at, is that it's a multifaceted validation tool.
Well, Jason, give us just a little more time. We need to transition to that, because at the moment, to be clear, what we have now is an indication, a promise to
Sure.
do that quality work.
Yep.
And again, this is primarily aimed at the residential new construction market.
Mhm.
I think that once we have a lot deeper penetration of this product into the market, we're going to have an opportunity in a way to identify contractors that are interested in taking the time, buying the tools, and doing the job right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I may add for this transition, Wes,
Yeah.
just to say, just for context, I mean, that, as you said, so far, the QA program has been very geared towards the residential new construction market. Now, we have had the ACCA Quality Installation app to be able to do verification for the ACCA's own RSI certificate and the Energy Star Verified HVAC installation certificate. But honestly, the app was lousy. And it was less, it didn't have the backing
Feedback.
of smart connected tools. I
Sure.
mean, and that is
And
really
a great user interface.
Yeah, the game changer is smart connected tools.
Mhm.
So it's more reliable. First of all, it's easier for the technician, and then it's also that it's verifiable. And so I think we'll be more likely to that question. We'll get into this later on government incentives.
Yeah.
I think
There's a
government's
question I'm going to
more
bring up
likely-
later.
more likely to be able to, or be willing to recognize it with the reliability of the smart connected tools. And so thus far, by and large, while there have been some reasons for residential service installation contractors to become QA accredited, and we still think we've priced the new certificate such that it should be a no-brainer to become accredited. It currently does have that new construction bent to it, and the other thing is we're lowering those barriers to entry, that anyone can come in and issue one of these certificates now, even if you haven't jumped through all the hoops and made the upfront investment of becoming QA accredited.
That is a very important point, Sean. One of the things that we did before for Energy Star, and I'm not blaming Energy Star, I'm just saying is to launch the program, we did have an application process, we did have a review process, and they had to pay an annual fee. With this effort, we want to open the barn doors. You don't have to be just an ACCA member. You don't have to be just a QA contractor or both. Anyone can go to Measure Quick, follow the workflow, and earn a quality installation certificate. So this is wide open. There's no limitation on who can do or who can be recognized for doing quality work.
And by the way, I should say, well, Measure Quick, we're launching with Measure Quick. Of course, we're talking to others, and eventually, heck, we just got off the phone with another company. So there could potentially be other pathways down the road.
So Measure Quick has got a great app. They've got a great user interface, and this ties to the feedback, the measurements that are collected. If certain requirements are met, a quality installation certificate could be earned. So Sean, let's talk about those for just a minute. And these are meant to be a very simple way for a consumer to tell the difference between someone who can and someone who can't deliver. And it's for great contractors who are already doing great work to demonstrate, to hand to their customer and say, here it is. This is a simple way to prove it, to demonstrate that we did good work. Starting with, and so we call both of these quality installation certificates, or all of these, and then we differentiate verified system performance. Keyword there is system. So that's from the return grill to the supply outlet, it's the equipment, it's the ducts, the distribution system. It also includes design. So you need to do manual J, manual S, select the equipment correctly. It needs to be an AHRI match. And we've got a list there on the side that people can read for the design, for the equipment. And then we need to make sure we've got tight ducts. Sean was mentioning the fact that these systems' performance is greatly degraded. And what NIST found was that duct leakage is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ducts in unconditioned space, I should probably clarify.
Yeah.
If they're leaky, it's game, set, match. You're heating and cooling whatever state you're in. So verifying duct leakage, key component. If the equipment meets a little bit higher standard for efficiency, they can also earn an Energy Star verified installation certificate. And so the Energy Star brand has a lot of weight with consumers.
Absolutely.
I think that'll help carry that further.
Well, one of the questions that came up a while ago, and we left it over to the side, but I want to just kind of touch on it a little bit. I don't know if you guys have any input on this, but I definitely will. I like to poke this bear quite a bit. So one of the questions came in from HVAC Overtime was the likelihood of government requiring a QI certificate in order to qualify. Well, HVAC Overtime, I will tell you that I am pushing that bear as much as I possibly can. Because if we think about incentives that come through things like, the Inflation Reduction Act or any type of,
energy
of
rebate,
compensation,
right? Yeah.
Exactly. Rebates that can come from public utilities. If I'm a
Absolutely.
public utility, if I am someone that is paying money to make sure that a higher quality system is getting installed, what tool are we using to validate that equipment is actually performing the way that it was installed? And that's why this is so important. I hope, I pray, I push and ring the bell that we adopt something like this QI certificate for installations of equipment that is receiving rebates, whether at a federal level or at a local level. Because I know as a contractor, if I am pushing to become a high quality contractor doing high quality installations, I want to be able to make sure that I'm recognized for that traffic is pushed towards my direction, because I'm going to produce a certificate to validate my performance when I'm done. And if I'm a homeowner, I want that satisfaction of knowing how well my system is actually performing. Because you're right, if I'm buying a 20 plus SEER unit and it's installed and it's running at 16, what did I gain? So, yeah. I don't know if anyone
I'd
does
also like
but
to
I will.
speak up to what you brought up about the duct leakage. I spent a better part of this summer and spring doing a lot of blower door testing, and house leak. And yes, and then the blower door as well. And a lot of the construction around here is newer, so we're talking about houses that are 5 to 10 years old, and the numbers were just completely mind blowing. So when
a lot of leakage.
My. I was astounded. It was very eye-opening for me. Yeah. So I am totally in line with what you're saying there.
Whereabouts were you, Jason?
I'm in Indiana, northern Indiana.
Indiana.
Yes.
A lot of ducts in unconditioned space in Indiana, or was it just
attached
leaky
garages?
ducts?
Yes.
Attached garages.
Yeah, where they have a soffit that runs through the garage. It's supposed to have a vapor barrier. Yeah. I was blown away.
Duct leakage in garages. That's too wow.
Yeah, I know.
So, Cliff, to your point, Sean's got more content about. Well, Sean, you want to just
Well, yeah, I just
jump
jumped
on
ahead
it?
real quick on this
Yeah.
since it came up. I
A
mean,
lot of questions there. Sure.
we've been really excited about some of this language that came out in Department of Energy's guidance for developing the rebate programs under the Inflation Reduction Act. And they had language saying states must establish minimum quality installation standards and establish QA processes that allow the state to verify and document whether these standards have been met. So that sounds perfect, right?
Right.
But it's going to take work. And that's something ACCA and its allied contracting organizations in the state. I mean, this is something we've got to fight state by state by state, because each state's program is going to be a little bit different. And I'll tell you, some of the conversations, I just came back from the Building Performance Association New England conference yesterday. And a lot of those program administrators, you talk to them, they're saying, well, we've already got, weatherization QA inspectors that go out and, they take pictures of the nameplate to ensure the right equipment was installed and all that. So we've got, third-party verification all taken care of. You don't have to worry about that. But of course, we know that, again, it's just focusing on the boxes. And so we're trying to arm our state associations with these tools, reaching out to states, state energy offices directly in states where we don't have state associations, also working with the National Association of State Energy Officers to try to get this kind of thing in the conversation. Of course, the challenge is that we're just getting started. Not all contractors have these smart connected tools. So we're trying to get there. We don't want to make it a, no, you can't participate at all, at least now. Hopefully down the road, we will have more in there. But at least having some recognition and preferences for the importance of this kind of verification. So up on the screen there, you've got some examples of where we've got letters that can be sent to your state energy office, templates for those. Sort of the roadmap for using these tools to verify and incentivize these programs. And then sort of a more comprehensive document that our codes subcommittee, led by Eric Warner from A1 Mechanical there in Ohio, helped pull together. That really sort of look at, if you're trying to design a program with contractors as opposed to impose something on contractors.
Yeah,
It actually works with existing certifications, works with existing tools like the one we're developing here. That's how the states are going to get what they're paying for. That's how consumers can get what they're paying for.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it is very important for those consumers to receive, what they were anticipating on getting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's a crime that it happens all across the country, and that people are they're being told one thing.
Yep.
I think it's by well-intentioned contractors.
Yeah, companies.
But they're just not. And I differentiate, Cliff, between contractors and HVAC professionals who
Good
do
point.
what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
But anyway, one last thing I do want to call out: air balancing. So for quality installation, the standard requires air balancing on new systems or systems that have had extensive renovations. If I'm replacing like for like, that's not a extensive renovation. If I'm enlarging the return so I can drop that static pressure, increase airflow, that's a renovation. That's a revision to the duct system.
Exactly.
If I add a branch, or if I take away a branch lead, I need to make sure the right amount of air is now getting to the right place. So if there are duct revisions, duct renovations, duct additions, check your work. Make sure you're getting the right amount of air to the right place. So air balancing. And that's the system performance certificate. That's the soup to nuts. That's the compliance with the quality installation standard. You were talking about standards earlier. The ACCA QI standard is the benchmark, the standard that we're using to issue that verified system performance certificate.
And I think most homeowners anticipate that that's going to happen when they purchase new equipment, not knowing that it's probably not getting validated along the way unless they're using a tool like this.
Right. So, the duct leakage and the air balancing are two things. Everything else, I think that they think it's like a refrigerator.
Yeah, they assume it's part of the package.
I just take this one out, plug that one in. How hard is it? And Jason said something earlier. I can't remember if it was before in the green room or out here, but Jason, they leave the manufacturer. How did you say that?
I said all furnaces or air conditioners are created equal, and then they're installed.
So the installation has a huge part, a huge role. There's not many other major purchases that rely so much on that HVAC professional doing the correct design, doing the correct installation, and then commissioning the system afterward. And I think I'm preaching to the choir here, so I'll get off that soapbox. We have a different certificate because duct renovations, fixing duct systems or replacing them can be a heavy lift. Air balancing, vitally important element of delivering comfort to a home, can be a little bit of a heavy lift for some homeowners. And so we created sort of an entryway certificate. Is the equipment operating as it should? Have we got the right airflow, the refrigerant charge, the electrical? If it's a furnace, combustion efficiency, are we operating correctly? And so there is a way to earn a quality installation certificate for work you can do. I can install this system correctly. I can install this equipment correctly. And then how it interacts with the system, it might be a little suspect. And I do recommend, to Jason's point, do evaluate those duct systems. Don't get caught short later. Propose the appropriate renovations that need to be done. And if they can't take that just now, at least they know. I've heard so many stories from contractors who made promises and had to eat a duct system replacement. And so from that point forward, they were bidding replacements as appropriate, as applicable for future projects. And when someone else came in cheaper, they would come back and they'd say, you know what? The equipment's probably working just fine, but this duct system it's atrocious. We're leaking all this air into the attic or a crawl space or somewhere, or it's not balanced correctly. And so he would come back and have justification for replacing that duct system. And they were happy to do it.
So the goal here is,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so the goal here is to set up that good, better, best conversation. And, so the contractor's not, coming across that customer is completely out of whack with the market where, I've got 3 bids that are, $10,000. And here you're telling me I need to spend 20 to say, I can give you the verified equipment operation installation. And I'm going to do the job right. I'm going to verify it. Maybe it'll cost you $12,000. But, you're going to, unless you make these additional investments to step up this ladder to a verified system performance, make those duct improvements, because heck, this heat pump's going to require more airflow than your old traditional air conditioner did. Your furnace blowing out air at 130. So we need to make these changes, or you're never going to be as comfortable in your home. You're never going to get what you're paying for. And these are long-term investments, and really helping them show that you're truly different and step up that ladder. And we're building a whole suite of marketing tools around helping them climb that ladder.
I love that.
Don't just assume that because the house or the ductwork is newer that it's good.
No.
That was my shock, that these are newer homes, and you would think, all right, there's new standards in place. There has to be something, right?
Right. Yeah.
That when these installers and built this home, that there was some kind of a standard or some sort of, and I was blown away by 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old homes that were just, the ductwork was atrocious.
Brand new home. Moved into it, and my wife says, why is there a 7-degree difference between the first floor and the second floor? And I went, because we don't have high quality validation tools being utilized for new construction and installation. She said, what? On a brand new home?
If you drive around my subdivision, you'll see all the second floors have window units in there. And these are all new homes. And on the second floor, they all have window units in the second floor bedrooms.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then in the winter, are they opening those second floor windows?
Right, to vent out. Yeah, the excess.
Yeah, customers just don't have a good way. And so we want to provide a path, a way for some discerning customers. I saw a comment earlier that we need to educate customers, and you're exactly right. And I think it's going to be one HVAC professional at a time.
Absolutely.
ACCA is definitely going to do its part.
We're here.
Cliff, ESCO, you guys are
there.
doing abs, and we're grateful, and we thank you for this opportunity to come on and discuss this.
Absolutely. It's our honor.
Verified. So why use? Yeah, let's go on, Sean. If there are other questions
Well, I
come
guess
in,
we
we'll
do we have the
certainly.
standard 310 slide in here? Maybe we don't.
So standard 310. For those that don't know,
Hmm.
standard 310 is a standard developed by ResNet, ACCA, and the International Code Council, ICC, and it's more aimed at residential new construction. It's Energy Star certified homes is recognizing this standard, and we would like to create a pathway to electronically validate certain elements that the HVAC professional can validate and
Yeah.
save the rater from going out and doing a non-invasive refrigerant test or trying to measure power on a furnace or a fan coil unit with and that's just could be a problem waiting to happen. I think there are very competent raters out there. Same thing for evaluating airflow. The
There's some
HVAC professionals should be doing those things anyway. John.
Or some jurisdictions where you need an HVAC license to even be able to, do some of those things. Essentially empowering the contractor to differentiate themselves and lighten the burden on that rater.
Absolutely. So moving on, the talking about, we've been kicking this around. I think we're almost beating a dead horse here at this point. But I'd like to call it at least a couple things. One is that using tools like this provide an owner with confirmation that the work was done correctly. They also provide a way for some troubleshooting, some remote troubleshooting. If an installer or a startup tech gets out and they've got a problem, the owner, someone sitting remotely, wherever it may be, maybe their office, maybe a truck, up, on another job, but they can see those same measurements and say, hey, it looks like you've got a problem with your filter. It looks like something's come loose in the return. It looks like the refrigerant charge. It looks like, but they can see those same measurements and say, hey, why don't you go check this or check that? And so if you're an operations guy, it's confirmation at the end, or you get a confirmation that the certificate could be issued and you can move that forward through the process. So it's a real tool for that HVAC professional as well, in my opinion.
Absolutely it is. We just had this conversation with Chris Mahali last week talking about one of the most diagnosed issues with new installation in operating conditions is improperly set dip switches for ECM motors, improperly established airflow, because so many technicians will assume that, like a variable speed motor is going to be automatic regulating.
Right out of the box.
Right out of the box.
It's ready to go out of the box. Plug it in.
Those dip switches mean nothing.
Exactly. So
They're too small to see anyway.
Here's a tool that we can utilize on that installation and commissioning. That's why I keep preaching. It's so imperative that we validate, that we commission. How do we know? We don't know until we test, and we can prove and validate. And so in the installation, now we have the opportunity to validate. It's going to show us what the performance is. And so we're going to know immediately if we're not performing at its rated specifications. And then it gives us the opportunity to go, yeah, you're right. Hold on. Something is not right here. I better fix this.
It can prevent premature wear out of parts, callbacks, all kinds of things. Yeah.
Commissioning has, it's such a valuable tool. Absolutely.
And of course, it's also, go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say it also, connects those technicians with additional resources for training. It'll sort of, you can click on the button next to something that's not in range, and it'll send you to resources from ACCA, from Brian Orr's shop down at HVAC school, that sort of tool to help you troubleshoot and figure out how to get it in range that needs to be.
We always talk about our workforce. How do we better support our workforce? Well, we actually have it. We just don't utilize it enough. It's technology. It's these resources that we have at our fingertips that can improve our efficiency. And so now we just have to encourage, and I've been trying to impound it, and I got to get a little bit softer and sweeter about it, and now try to encourage contractors, encourage technicians, encourage homeowners to, seek these types of resources.
Cliff, I don't want to eat up too much more. I think everybody can read. I'm happy to discuss or flesh out or to explain anything further, but I know Sean's got some great content, and I don't want to leave him with 2 minutes left.
No, no, absolutely. Yeah, let's dive a little deeper, Sean. Let's talk
Well,
about
and,
these
yeah, I just wanted
resources.
to come in on the market differentiation
Yeah.
piece. I mean, one of the great anecdotes from yesterday was Peter Trost from Energy Circle talking about like the top Google search terms for this year, and
Hmm.
it's best heat pumps 2023 is the top term, and it's the debate. Well, do I get the Mitsubishi or the Fujitsu, and then who can install it for cheapest? And really changing
Ah,
that conversation. And of course, we're partnering with Pearl Certification to try to get this integrated into their whole home certificate system, but to borrow their language, shifting that conversation from price to value and looking at the whole installed efficiency of the system rather than the just that race to the bottom. And so this can really be a tool for showing that it's not just them, not just the contractor saying it's not just a green branding initiative, but really show this is how your current system is performing. Here are the shortcomings, and here's what we're going to solve by actually doing those necessary changes and sort of helping them climb that ladder to the more comprehensive install. And so some of these tools are available today. We've got resources, obviously the certificates themselves, slide decks for that kitchen table conversation.
Wow.
We've got marketing templates that contractors can use. We're also looking for feedback on the tools that they need to be able to sell this to their customers. And looking at doing some joint marketing efforts where some of those early adopters. I mean, if you are a contractor and you come in the door right now, to be one of these early adopters, we'll partner with you. We'll shout your name from the rooftops and help do some of those AdWords buys with you to be able to help get the volume that the system, this program needs to get off the ground. So, we're really looking for contractors that want to be the first movers in this space and to wrap the resources that you need around this. So, I mean, as I said, they've got the marketing tools, then also the incentives. We talked a little bit about the government incentives earlier, but also, different, private incentives for that as well. And I think, Pearl's a great example where, trying to get it built into, the, multiple listing services, the appraisal
Right.
institute, getting those green attributes of your home recognized when at the time of resale, or if you're looking to refinance and get a HELOC or something like that, being able to show that value that you've invested in your home.
That's big.
Yeah, that rings
Um,
well with me.
And we haven't gotten everything figured out on the financing front, but I think that's a very important piece here and something we're talking with a variety of companies on to be able to lessen that blow. I mean, particularly where you're looking at that longer term investments in, say, the ductwork that could be significantly more expensive. But if we can show that your monthly payment's not going to go up significantly, maybe you'll have a longer term, but it's a longer term investment. And
Right.
also, hopefully, your system's going to last
Yeah,
longer because you're not,
fixing a problem
putting
that's
that
been existing.
pressure on the blower fan because you don't have enough airflow in your system, and it's going to crap out on you in 5 years. That's why you that's
Mhm.
why you don't have a 15-year loan. Well, maybe this will let your system last longer, and the monthly cost isn't going to be that much higher.
Yeah, makes
Um,
complete sense.
and then, talking with partners. We're talking with everybody who will listen. I think the holy grail down the road, and if there are OEMs out there listening to this, love to talk to you about warranty. I mean, that's something that, as I just said, if you're putting that strain on the equipment because it's not installed to manufacturer spec, well, when it comes back to you, do you really know that's why it failed? Or are you just going to pay out that warranty? And we're hoping we'll be able to demonstrate that this is, making that equipment have a longer life, fewer warranty claims. And hopefully we can incentivize that by recognizing it with better warranty terms
and
for
it
verified
extends
systems.
to beyond just the manufacturer. A lot of times, distributors.
Oh, yeah.
If you can lower your warranty claims through the distributor, that's more money that they're willing to help in their. Many of them have a dealer program, so
Yep.
if you participate in that, that money can go to paying for your ACCA membership, maybe, or paying for your contractor accreditation, or getting an HVAC excellent certification. But it's they're willing to be flexible and willing. So I think it trickles down in lots of different ways.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't recognize that other places around the world have invested into these types of commissionings, these types of validations, and have significantly reduced warranty returns. Even here in the US, when we look at boiler installations, boiler installations require a system commissioning report on installation to validate for warranty. But yet we get a furnace and we go to the very last page and it has, recommended commissioning information to be written down that never gets filled out. So there are very few systems that truly get validated on their performance, their commissioning, which in return reflects on their warranty. So as a manufacturer, I don't know why we don't, honestly.
So I just saw the question that came out there. Do you want to talk to schools/educators? And well, yes, of course we
That's
do.
the goal.
And we're eager to talk and how we get this integrated in 5 Ways from Sunday. And hopefully it's a great learning tool, right? Where you're really able to get that system dialed in and figure out what's not out of range, but then also figuring out those additional things that you need to layer on to make sure that you're not just, heck, you do the box swap, you get dialed in, you got the right refrigerant charge, you got, you move things around to get the airflow to read right. Well, are you really making that customer comfortable? And heck, maybe there's, other things that you can do. You might be able to sell a bigger job by saying, hey, we're going to do, some proper air sealing in your home and install a smaller system, something like that to be able to, deliver real value.
If you reach to the students and the instructors, we can kind of change the role that we play here in that contractors have an expectation of students when they graduate a program and come in. We can have students have expectations of the contractor when they leave the program. I mean, we can kind of reverse that role and say, listen, I'm expecting you to do this, 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 and this. You know what I mean? Coming out already.
And heck, if they're learning on the smart connected tools,
right? That's exactly
where they don't have them. Because that's frankly, I mean, we've replaced one barrier to entry, right, with the upfront QA payment with the new barrier to entry on these tools. So that may be a challenge.
But that's a one-time expense for multiple years, and it's delivering on what you were supposed to be doing anyway. It's confirmation, it's feedback, it's a way to differentiate yourself, to set yourself apart. Someone mentioned earlier about an investment in technology or investment in education is an investment in yourself. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, especially when you apply it.
Well, and may I'll jump ahead here, and obviously we talked a lot about the Inflation Reduction Act a little while ago, so I'm not going to go deep into the rebate programs, but the other piece here is the newly renamed TRAC program, the Training for Residential Energy Contractors. Now that money's, when you take $200 million and divide it up among 50 states and tribes and others, it can easily, it doesn't necessarily go a long way. And some states are going to be narrowly focusing it. But that being said, that could be a resource here. And we're working to try to make sure that that's being directed towards, helping, contractors, existing trade schools, folks already involved, train up to be able to use these tools, to be able to install heat pumps, as opposed to, I think, some of the policymakers out there are trying to, well, how do we turn solar installers into heat pump installers? Contractors aren't moving fast enough on this. So let's create that army of heat pump installers to compete against contractor or quality contractors. So getting those programs steered in the right direction. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there.
No worries. I said it looks good on paper, but in reality, that just doesn't play.
Yeah.
Taking solar installers and turning them into heat pump installers.
Sure. Why not take current installers and make them better and validate their performance?
Exactly.
That's the winner.
That's why we're here. I mean, that's really how we solve this problem. We look at callbacks and the cost of callbacks to a contractor. How do you reduce callbacks? You validate the actual installation on commissioning.
Absolutely.
So the message on Inflation Reduction Act is that states right now are at the moment where they've gotten their time to get the guidance, they digest the guidance, they start writing their plans. Those states are getting ready to submit their plans back to DOE of how they're going to implement these programs. All three, the rebate programs, including the HERO program, homes, and TRAC. You're going to see those plans starting to go into DOE any day now.
Mhm.
Some states may lag; they may be
Mhm.
6 months out, but you're going to see those plans going in very quickly. And so, if you want to weigh in with your state energy office, now is the time. And we'd be glad to talk with anybody out there who wants to figure out how to partner with ACCA, with your state association, on how to engage DOE to get recognition for tools like this.
And so we have our main website. Is there any other resources? I mean, do you need to become a member to acquire those templates, or is this just an outreach program?
Oh, in terms of the templates, we'll send those templates to anyone. I mean, we've been working primarily through our allied contracting organizations at the state level, but we'd be glad to work with anybody who's passionate. Of course, we hope you will choose to invest in ACCA membership. And I sort of brought this up since you mentioned membership.
Yeah.
But there's kind of two pieces here on. I guess there's that question of how much this is all cost. Maybe I'll toss back to you, Wes, on this.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, when we opened the program up, we needed to make sure we've got a way to confirm and validate. And so Measure Quick helps us provide that. There's also for a verified system performance certificate. Now you can leave it,
Okay.
Sean. There's extra validation required. And so ACCA does charge a fee.
Yeah.
This does create a record in Measure Quick that can be accessed in the future. So there's that's baked into this. But for a way to demonstrate to your customers that you're going to deliver quality and it's going to be verified by an independent organization using objective measurements, we see that as a huge value proposition for the HVAC professional. For QA contractors, we sweeten the deal a little bit. We'll provide you with 20 free certificates. So that's gratis. By the way, that'll help offset the price of your annual accreditation.
Yeah.
I want to be clear, it's the entire cost of your annual accreditation. So the entire fee comes
there
back.
You go.
Wow.
Sean's let the cat out of the bag. For those that are interested in and want to check it out, ACCA or the price for until December 31st is just the $5 fee. And if you're an accredited contractor, I'll pay the $5. I've already given Measure Quick a small pile of money. And so once you say, hey, yes, this one was mine, I'll pay for that.
Okay.
So time's running out, but feel free to go and take a look. And of course, I think everyone knows the Measure Quick app is a free download. It's free to use. It's only when you create that digital record that there's a small $5 fee for that, right, to create that digital record, which is there in perpetuity, basically.
And just to clarify, that $5 fee is included in this pricing going forward as well.
And
okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
$5 fee is included. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, Sean.
And hopefully this is something, that, when you look at that overall value for your customers of seeing this, it's something that you should be able to
and the differentiation.
Yeah, it is a differentiation. And I truly hope that it becomes, a standard practice going forward. So that's the reason I wanted us to dive into this, because the anticipation is that, there's going to be a lot of funds going out through different incentives. And how do you validate that system is receiving the performance that it was designed to? Well, there's only one way. You have to test it and you have to validate it. Just like we talk in education. The only way we can know, if we talk about educators, and I get 10 educators in a room and they all say, I'm a great educator. Well, how do you know they're a great educator unless you test them all and you have a standard to validate that against? It's the same way with installations. If I have 10 different contractors that are saying they can install a good product for me, how can I validate that any of those are distinguished from the other? Well, if I'm using tools to validate against standards, now I absolutely have a recognized reference.
John, we got to wrap this up in just a few minutes, don't we?
I know, but it's a lot of good stuff. I hate to. Let's open it up for
take some questions too, right?
Yeah, and it takes a minute or two sometimes. So anyone has any questions, comments, pop them in the chat, and we'll see what we have to work with there.
Absolutely. And a couple of my favorite quotes from Mr. Deming. I stole these from Joe Medosh at Measure Quick.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not measuring, you're just guessing. I think someone said that earlier in the chat.
Jim, I see you up in Springfield yesterday.
Without data, you're just another person with an opinion. Boy, isn't that one true?
I kind of like that one.
I do too.
Yeah.
That one resonates. Right. Still got some out there. We appreciate everybody joining us today. I know sometimes it's a little slow for some of the social media messages to come through, so we'll give it just another minute or two. Oh, another thing I wanted to
Absolutely.
bring up.
Right.
When we start talking about these QA and QI within ACCA, we also have a direct link. So if you're watching on a monitor, grab your phone, grab a quick snapshot. That'll actually bring you directly into the QA QI resources within ACCA. And I highly encourage you to go there and do some investigation, evaluation. I was skimming through it earlier today, and there's a lot of good validation information on that website.
And a lot of what we covered, that material is also on the website. And to clarify that, we get a little bit of alphabet soup going, but the QA is for the contractor, for that business, and the quality installations for that house, that HVAC system, that installation. So the small clarification there.
And then, of course, the other piece here is ACCA membership. And you've seen throughout here the different pricing incentives, and you get a discount on your accreditation if you're an ACCA member as well. And of course, that's ultimately how we work together on being able to fight for these incentives to make sure that make sure that they're supporting quality contractors, not breeding your competition, and also, of course, dealing with issues like the coming technology transition rule and the ban on 410A equipment installation with no sell-through period December 31st. That sort of thing is the kind of thing.
Another show.
That's another show. That's the kind of thing that ACCA is looking out for you on. Hope you'll choose to invest in ACCA membership, and particularly if you're looking at becoming accredited, stepping up to at least a silver membership ought to be a no-brainer as well. So glad to talk to anybody about how all this stuff fits together. And of course, then there are the training tools. So that not only are you verifying your team's done the job right, but you're providing them the tools to learn those things.
Cliff, I think our industry's been given a gift, whether you like the politics of it or not. But this opportunity with heat pumps is a delicate, fragile beast. If we don't get heat pumps right, there are going to be people who are turned off and never want to use them again. And again,
it's going to ruin it for everybody, right? Yeah.
So we've got to do the job right. And I don't care if you earn a QI certificate or not, but do commission your system, do the job right. And if you do want recognition for it, we'll help you.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. This is the reason we get together. We pick different topics within the entire building science development, and we go, we have to talk about these things. Let's grab the right people. Let's bring them in. Let's talk about it, and let's give you a resource so you know where to go in the future to be able to maintain this relationship. Because there are so many things we have to educate on, so many things that we're going to have to be prepared for in these next few years. And it's going to take the entire industry coming together and going, hey, I have this piece and I have this piece. And hey, we have this piece together now. So let's make sure that we grab these opportunities, make these connections. And you're right. Let's do this together. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I think we're going to wrap it up for the day.
You bet.
We look forward to many more learning and training opportunities with our friends over at Air Conditioning Contractors of America. All right. We'll see you again on Did You Know?
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. The ACCA HVAC Show.